On a trip to St. Croix in 1969, I was the first victim of a vicious St. Croix gang who eventually murdered 8 American tourists. At that time, I suffered multiple facial fractures and wounds and was left for dead. This story, told by musician Sherman Kelly, doesn't sound like it would be the origin for a song about loving life and feeling good, but it is. Kelly's story continues. While I was recovering, I wrote this song in which I envisioned an alternate reality, the dream of a peaceful and joyful celebration of life. The song he wrote was recorded by Kelly and his band, Boffalongo, in 1970. The track featured Kelly on vocals and his younger brother, Wells Kelly, on drums. The song didn't make much headway for the band, and they eventually split, with the younger of the Kelly brothers, Wells, taking the song with him to the next band he joined, a French-American rock band called King Harvest. Wells Kelly convinced the band to record the track, but he was not in town when the band went in to record in 1972. Jazz drummer Steve Cutler filled in for the session. Covering the role of vocals, bass, and keys was former Boffalongo member Dave Doc Robinson. The King Harvest single turned into the band's defining success, hitting the number 13 spot on the Billboard Hot 100. Since then, several other recording artists have made a hit out of the song as well, including English rock band Toploader and Swedish production duo Jubel. Most recently, Muppet band Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem covered the hit as part of the Muppets Haunted Mansion Halloween special in 2021. That's right, we're talking Dancing in the Moonlight by Sherman Kelly and Boffalongo. That's right, it's Cover Me, the only podcast that compares famous songs to their many cover versions to find out which one barks and bites. I'm your host, as always, The Snake, joined by my light and loose co-host,
Alex Mildenberger.
Alex Mildenberger. How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Right on.
It's pretty much it. I went go-karting for the first time last week.
For the first time? You've never been go-karting before?
Well, actually, I briefly went go-karting on a vacation, but I barely remember it. This was
right, because you were
years and years ago. I went to our local go-karting place for the first time with friends. The first time.
Friends Will and Steven, correct?
Will and Steven, both former and future, hopefully, podcast guests.
Yeah. Friends of the show, friends of the podcast.
Yeah. And they were both faster than I was, but that's expected.
Well, yeah, your stats are, you're more of a low top speed, high acceleration, right?
Yeah, I'm an which apparently is true just because I don't weigh that much. So I can accelerate pretty good. But that's my stats. I wasn't like the slowest person on the track. There was a really slow guy holding everyone up.
Nice.
It was hard to lap him because you had to pass him every time.
Just ram him, Alex. Take him out.
Should have rammed him. You're right.
Did you bring a banana peel with you?
No, but I did make a banana peel joke ahead of time. Because it was close, too, because I was like eating the banana. I was like, fuck, I can't make a joke. No one's here. Can't make a Mario Kart joke. And then suddenly everyone walked into the room. And I was like, oh, perfect timing. So I had the perfect opportunity, and it was hilarious.
That's excellent. Also, I know it was Halloween when you did this. Was anyone wearing costumes?
We didn't wear costumes. It was like the day before Halloween.
Oh, right. It was, you know how Halloween, if it's not on a Friday or a Saturday,
yeah,
like, people get weird about it. It's like every day of that week becomes Halloween.
Yeah, true. Well, yeah, there were no costumes. Unless you consider like a helmet. I mean, it's kind of a costume. Like it's a racing costume.
Yeah. Did you pretend you were a famous racer? Or you're like, Lightning McQueen?
I would have if I knew any famous racers.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true. I know the one guy. So the movie Rush, is it?
Yeah, with
yeah.
Who's the guy in it? Is it one of the Chris's in that?
Yeah, Hemsworth.
Chris
Hemsworth and Daniel Bruhl. Unless I'm mashing movies together. So the only racing guy I know is Niki Lauda.
That's right. I think I saw like the latter half of that film in friend and previous guest Kaylin's basement one time.
That's the place. Yeah. I know that name for some reason.
Yeah, Nicky Lauder.
He's a racing guy.
Pretend you were Nicky Lauder when you were driving your go-kart?
No, not at all.
No.
I was just focusing on just
time.
like not messing up.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I'd be doing in that situation.
Going fast and not messing up. The not messing up is what made me slow.
Yeah, too much focus on technique.
Yeah. But it was all right. It was a good time.
Good on you.
I've go-karted Steven before for that. Oh shit, sorry.
Oh no, yeah, and I immediately right out of the gate just hit the tires on the side, and I had to get a guy to fish me out. It sucked. No. That's I think the last time I went go-karting. But Alex, today nothing to do with go-karting. We're talking about Dancing in the Moonlight, made famous by King Harvest. Done by a lot of people. Almost made famous by several other people as well. I know the Toploader version's very popular.
Yep.
Alex, you didn't really know this song coming in this week, is that correct?
Not really, but I kind of recognized it. Because I have watched Umbrella Academy. It's in Umbrella Academy. So I've definitely heard it before. So there's that.
For sure. Big question. What do you think about it overall?
I like it. Yeah, it's a good time. It's a very basic song. I wouldn't say it's like transcendent, but I can see why it's so popular.
Yeah, it's definitely a jam.
Yeah, it's a jam. It's a jam.
It's a fucking jam, and that's we will see with these covers just to foreshadow things that, like, if it plays a little long, you start to see like the threads in it, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess there's really not a lot going on here. But in some of the shorter, tighter versions, it takes you to this sort of dreamy dancing space. I think it's very cool. I don't even know the first time I heard this song, but it's a song when you hear it, you're like, I feel like I should have known this my whole life. It seems
it feels
timeless.
that way.
Yeah. And so we're just gonna get into it, Alex. Let's talk about these lyrics, which of course are very simple.
They are.
Is it we get it almost every night, or is it we get it on most every night?
I've heard both. Listening, I originally thought it was almost, but I'm pretty sure, like, if it's we get it on most every night, then like there's no doubt that this song is about sex, right?
I mean, that's a theory. It could also just be like, because maybe in like if we're going back to the 70s, getting it on was just like having a good time, not necessarily just boning down.
Because I have been hearing we get it on. Now, I've mostly listened to the King Harvest version as well, so I don't know why they would change it.
Yeah. And I think, hang on, we've got to listen to the Boffalongo version here. I'm pretty sure it's We Get It On. And that's sung by Sherman Kelly, the guy who wrote it. So that's got to be taken as the most pure version of it.
I don't think he sang the Boffalongo version.
He did.
He did?
Yes, he did.
Okay. There was a reason why I said I don't think he sang it, and I'm trying to remember.
Because he's not usually the singer for the band, is the reason.
Oh, okay. That would explain it.
But he did sing on this one.
Oh, you know what it is? It's because... Oh, no, that's not right. No, I just read the wrong thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sure.
But I did see the part where it says, like, a special thanks to Sherman Kelly for his vocal cords.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought maybe he did backups. But no, that makes more sense. Okay. I was looking at the wrong thing. I see that now.
You see that? And yeah, in the original, he does say we get it on most every night. Which obviously has a bit of sexual connotations, but he's imagining a world where he doesn't get jumped, and in that world he does get humped, and that's good.
No jumping, only humping. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a more joyous thing, because even ignoring that line or taking that line however you want, and you know he will take it however he wants.
Yeah.
The rest of the song is like very generally about just like having a good time.
Yeah, and it's very much a group feel, which I'm not ruling out orgies, but you know, it's very clearly the thesis is everybody's dancing in the moonlight.
Yeah.
And that's what we get at the end of this verse.
Dancing is a group activity, or mostly.
Yeah. And I don't think we've actually said the full verse, so we get it on most every night. When that moon gets so big and bright, it's a supernatural delight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight.
You got some rhyming? You got some... I mean, it's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's simple. It sets up the setting and how we should feel about it. There's a moon. It's large and bright. It's a regular occurrence. We know this happens almost every night, or we get it on most every night. It's a delight. It's a supernatural delight.
And there's...
It's, everybody's dancing in the moonlight. And then we get our second verse. Same as the first, kind of. It says, everybody here is out of sight. Everybody here is out of sight. They don't bark and they don't bite. They keep things loose. They keep things light. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight.
Now we kind of get his vague allusion to being beat up and having to...
Everybody here is great. They don't attack
me. They don't attack people. There's no... Not only is there no violence, there's no, like, words, like bad words exchanged either.
Yeah, there's no bark or bite.
It's like kind all the way down.
Yeah,
it's a good experience.
Exactly. That's really it. And then we come to the chorus: dancing in the moonlight. Everybody's feeling warm and bright. Such a fine and natural sight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight. So not only is it good, but it's natural. The delight is supernatural, and the sight is natural.
Yeah.
To see people dancing in the moonlight, it's good. This is how it should be.
They're not doing anything weird. It's not like... I mean, this is a theme we kind of come across every once in a while, is like your like kids versus squares kind of thing, or like people who like to have fun versus people who like to destroy fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't address it directly, but I think saying that it's a natural sight is sort of alluding to that. Like it's saying there's nothing wrong with what's going on, even though some people might say like, oh, this is like partying no good. You gotta repent or whatever for that. They're like, no, it's all good. We're just having a good time. It's totally natural, totally human.
Yeah, totally natural to be out at night dancing. Because you know what? Also, I once played a minor role in the stage play adaptation of The Crucible.
I do know this.
You do know this, and in that play, one of the things that was like a sign of witchcraft, or like one of the pastor sees people dancing naked in the woods at nighttime. And he's like, "This is unnatural." So maybe this is stretched, but maybe it is an allusion to that, or at least the idea of that. Where if you're out at night,
dancing in the wood, and we're like, "We're just dancing in the moonlight." It's not sinister. We're just having fun.
It's not sinister. It's warm and bright. It's natural. Yeah. It's a good time.
I brought that up recently because I was talking about, because it's recently Halloween. Yes. I was talking about the Salem witch trials for whatever reason, and I mentioned Giles Corey. That's the name, right?
Shout out. That's the guy who gets more weight put on him.
Getting crushed by the rocks or whatever. And I mentioned that you played that part, and then my parents asked like, "Oh, what did they do for the weight? What did it look like?" And I didn't know because I was backstage the whole time. I never saw it actually happen.
Here's the thing: is it never happens on stage. It's the coolest part of that character is like somebody else's throwaway line. Like they just talk about it after the fact. So yeah, I don't actually get to enjoy the most badass part of that character when I played that role.
Okay, that explains why I had no idea what.
That's why you had no recollection.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's also been like 11
so
years
sick
or something
to get
like that. So.
Crushed on stage.
Every night, crushed on stage by rocks.
By rocks.
There's also, I think, a painting of that movie.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, it's like a big, because it's true history, like that actually happened, right? Yeah. Crazy. What else happened is the opposite of that, which is dancing and feeling good.
The next verse.
Yes, we like our fun and we never fight. You can't dance and stay uptight. It's a supernatural delight. Everybody was dancing in the moonlight.
Yeah, so this kind of does two things, which is one, restate a few things that have already been said.
Mm-hmm.
And to just repeat some things that have already been said. So we've got our not fighting and having fun. More of that. There's just more of that. But explicitly, we're not fighting. It's not a metaphor of barking and biting.
We come out straight and say it.
Yeah, and then again another reference to this like uptight people versus loose people.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, if you start dancing, you can't be uptight. You gotta, or perhaps you can't dance and be uptight.
Yeah, it's impossible to maintain both states. So if you're uptight, you're not going to be dancing. If you're dancing, you're not going to be uptight.
Start dancing. And then it's a supernatural delight again.
Yeah, kind of again, he's like, it's quite simple.
Yeah.
It's a supernatural delight. Dancing in the moonlight. And that's really it for unique lyrics in this. It kind of
it does some mixing and matching of like verses. Like it repeats, but doesn't have the chorus, and then like repeats the second verse or possibly refrain, depending on who you ask. And then just does a bunch of that. Actually, no, that's not even the chorus, is it?
What, dancing in the moonlight, everybody feeling warm and bright? Such a fine and natural sight, everybody's dancing in the moonlight?
they just say it slightly different.
Yeah. Yeah, and they kind of,
and then a bunch of choruses.
A bunch of choruses. And that's the lyrics of the song. It's about how dancing in the moonlight is good and not attacking people is great. We should do more of that in society.
Just have a fun time with your buds.
Yeah.
And dance in the moonlight, which is
this song
good
is
advice,
all about having good vibes.
Not possible all times of year in a cold climate.
Yeah, for sure. As you might slip, you'll have to clear out a space, maybe get a fire in the middle,
Yeah. Bonfire. It was bonfire night last night. Anyway.
That's right. It was. Shout out to Bonfire Night. Check out our firework episode featuring Greta James.
And Bonfire Night trivia.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's
indeed.
That's the lyrics. They're not, I wouldn't say, profound or anything, but like they work. They get their point across, and then there's a lot of repetition, which is why I think this song is like, it's not like the most difficult song to cover in that like having a good time is the goal of a lot of music. So you can really just have the having a good time vibe without it necessarily being the same thing in a lot of different contexts. So it fits. And like the structure doesn't matter that much. Like you can say all the words and shift them around, and it's not like a story. It's just basically saying the same thing a few times. So
you only need 4 words in the song to make it this song, and that's dancing in the moonlight.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you have that there, you can do just about anything around it as long as it provides good vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also where the lyrics thrive, is that the statement dancing in the moonlight sounds good. It portrays exactly what the song is meant to feel like. And so it's a good, like it's like you said, it's not amazing. This isn't fucking Bob Dylan or Bruce Springsteen. Like this isn't storytelling writing.
Yeah.
But it's still strong in its word choice in that chorus. Like that is good, and it tells us everything we need to know.
Yeah, even like you said, the title kind of tells you everything you need to know, because as much as there are words saying that get into some kind of specifics, they repeat themselves a lot, and like we kind of already know, like dancing in the moonlight. The idea of dancing in the moonlight kind of already says those things. Because like, why else? Like, what does it mean to dance in the moonlight? You're probably outside. Probably. Like, I can't think of a negative situation where you just start dancing in the moonlight because you're like sad. Or something.
Like the song says, you can't dance and stay uptight.
Yeah. So like, it's all there.
Yeah, it's all communicated there, and truly, like, really, the purpose of the vocals is almost to give. There's a lot of like group vibes to this song. So you'll see on the chorus, everybody always sings together, and some other cover versions will incorporate other elements of your group vibe, whether it be hand snaps or claps, things that give the essence of everybody, togetherness.
Yeah.
So that's really what this song rides on, is that vibe, and it's conveyed in those 4 words. The rest of the lyrics, take them, leave them, move them around. But you need dancing in the moonlight. That said, let's talk about the original version and its instrumentation, Alex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, of course, we're dealing with a YouTube version here. It's a bit of a rough audio quality.
Yeah, it's not the best. It's also kind of old. Like, this is from 1970, and it's not like a big band or anything, so they like a popular band, so they probably didn't have the best equipment.
Yeah, this was their first single they produced as well. So, and the band didn't last long, but this was also early in their short career. So there you go.
So
that said, it does serve as like a demo for the next version. It has
really
a lot
does
of the groundwork.
feel like that, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
More like a demo. Like there's a few extra elements that they don't bring along for good reasons. The biggest example I can think of that is it comes in really early on. There's a few guitars.
Yes.
And one of them, which might be a guitar, but might actually be an organ. I'm not totally clear. It's just really muddy and kind of like really like rhythm, kind of like a rhythm guitar-y sort of thing.
Yeah, it's got like some weird effects on it or something. I know the one you're talking about.
And that's pretty much there throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's not, I didn't like it very much. It doesn't ever come up again.
No.
And it, that's a good thing to get rid of. But yeah, like the basic idea is here of the song, and it gets improved later. I really think it gets improved later, because it's got some stuff like there's a couple guitars. There's one that plays like the higher melody, and then the rest of it's pretty straightforward. But like the way the guitar kind of noodles around is somewhat distinctive, but they don't quite make it right.
Yeah, it's not like cemented yet. There's like the loose outline of like a good guitar riff. And then the only thing that's really kind of hammered down is the bass. Like a lot of aspects of the bass we'll see maintained throughout the King Harvest version and throughout others. There's that walking down that boom, ba-doom, da-doom, da-doom.
Yes, actually that's a big part of like that does come back later in a more like distinctive form, but that they're not necessarily playing the same thing, but they follow that same dun, 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 dun. And that really is something that is like one of the good elements they bring forward.
Yeah.
Vocally, like I'm looking at the album artwork. I'm seeing these guys, these like early 70s guys, long hair, beards, and they sound exactly how I expected them to.
Yeah, singing. He's got a like a coarseness to his voice that almost comes up to country.
Yeah, it's that kind of southern rock sound that it's not as like intense as like a John Fogerty, but it's not out of place in that neighborhood. That is not super common nowadays, except in like throwback stuff, but it was at the time.
Yeah, 100%. This one really just reads as a demo, even going into the chorus. Like you get the group singing, but it approaches like a more punk style of group choruses where they don't exactly sound like they're all in tune or singing the same note. Right.
It's not the Eagles in terms of, or like I guess Queen in terms of harmonies.
Yeah.
But another thing they do, like in their first chorus, there's no lead vocal. It's all just the group.
That's singing.
Right. And then he does continue to sing when they get to the second chorus.
That's right.
But there's not really a ton of change across the song either. They don't do like a big build or anything. It's kind of just maintained at a level of like having a good time.
Yeah, like a loose jam.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it feels. Feels more like a jam.
Yeah, that they recorded and were like, we're going to nail this out and do a song later. But they didn't actually do that. They just gave the demo to somebody and that became their single.
Yeah.
But it really does serve as like the demo for the King Harvest version.
Yes, exactly.
They do have a section worth noting, these woos. They do a little vocal
yeah, and I guess I had another question. So they do that. That's kind of near the end. There's like a guitar solo.
Yeah.
And then they have that part you were talking about.
Yeah, you're like vocal breakdown.
In the notes of this, and I'm not clear on where these came from. But there was a note written by like maybe the recording engineer or someone saying thanks to a bunch of the people who worked on this.
Yeah, special thanks to Jeremy Steig on flute, Sherman Kelly for his vocal cords, Eric Blackstead, Wells Kelly for their inspirational raps. and especially to Duffy of JT Sound Studios Ltd in New York.
But where's the flute?
You know what? An excellent question.
I didn't hear any flute on that.
About that.
And I listened through it and I tried to find it, but I couldn't.
Yeah, I don't think I note the flute anywhere. Let me take a look at my notes here. Yeah. Groove and bass, warp sounding guitar. We get it on. I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea. Unless it's like he called a flute like an organ a flute for some reason, because there's like a flute switch on, or that would be a weird thing to do. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
very
it's
strange.
like a little wink.
I don't know why.
Like, hey, thanks for the flute.
Why? I didn't hear a flute. Didn't hear a flute? I don't know. Yeah,
that's odd. That woo section's all right though. A little bit cheesy, but that's kind of the vibe of this song.
Yeah, and like it's a decent rendition of this. And if it was the only version, we'd probably think more highly of it. But I do think it was pretty significantly improved in future versions.
Yeah, it gets blown out of the water. And what's funny to me is that, like, we'll be moving to the King Harvest version here quickly. Is that Sherman Kelly, the writer of the original, and his brother both managed to not be on this version, despite some other members of that band being on here.
Yeah.
It's a bit funny. One thing I wanted to ask before we moved on, Alex, is I mentioned in the intro that this was recently covered for the Muppets Halloween special.
Yes.
And you and I recently talked about how you like to put on like holiday songs that aren't really about the holiday, but have like words that you could misconstrue as being for that holiday. So if it talks about snow for Christmas, or if it's about ghosts for Halloween. Does this fit into that vibe? Does the song fit that sort of
kind of?
Category?
I mean, really? Because, like we were saying, it's kind of witchy.
Yeah, a bit.
For Dancing in the Moonlight. So I would say, if you were at a Halloween party and this came on, no one would complain for sure. But also, I think it works. I do, and especially because it's like King Harvest, and Harvest is kind of also
autumnal.
Associated with autumn, which is also spooky season. So I think there's enough connections that it would be a good addition.
Hell yeah. Speaking of good additions, we're going to get into these cover versions, starting with King Harvest in 1972.
Dancing in the moonlight, everybody feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody dancing in the moonlight. We like our phone and we never.
Yeah, so yeah, like you said, this was both these Kelly brothers were in this band. Although apparently Sherman Kelly didn't technically join until after this was recorded.
And
yeah.
Although Wells Kelly was in the band, he was not in the city when they were recording, so they got a different guy.
So sad.
So sad.
But
weird thing though,
they did a pretty solid job.
Yeah, they did. Now I want to talk about just a random fact that I almost missed.
Sure.
But so they got the Steve Cutler guy on drums, and the drums on this have a very soft feel to them. Apparently, he was using a toilet brush instead of drumsticks.
That is a very difficult thing to drum with, I would expect.
Yeah, I would expect.
Because, like, toilet brushes, like I understand, like, brushes that you play drums with, like, they're kind of, like, there's a handle, and then there's, like, a bunch of metal, like floppy metal spaghettis.
Yeah, noodles.
Noodle rods.
Rods,
that come out the end, and like you hit the drum with that, so they kind of don't all hit at the same time, and they don't hit with the same force because they're not as rigid. But like a toilet brush, like the bristles stick out at like a 90-degree angle from the rod. I feel like that'd be very difficult to do.
And they'd be weighted differently, right? Because that's not what they're considering.
Yeah, they'd be very heavy on the
brushes.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah. You can hear that right off the bat because there's that tick, 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 and I believe that's the toilet brush hits. Well, not quite right off the bat. You get the keys intro on this.
Yes, and the keys intro. The keys in this, the electric piano.
Mm-hmm.
I just think brings this song together so much.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
it's doing a lot of the same things conceptually that the lead guitar part in the original was doing, but it's so much more distinctive. They've kind of turned it into a more distinct like lick or riff.
Yes,
and it just
no
feels
longer a loose jam.
Yeah, it's something to hold on to throughout the song, and just becomes like the backbone.
100%, and the tone on it too is like perfect for the song. It's got a bit of like a happy, little bit of a dreamy vibe to it.
Yeah, and kind of twinkly, like stars, I guess.
Yeah. So it you're right. It really becomes the backbone of this track and turns it from like a cool loose jam into like a real pop single, like something that's actually hooky.
And feels like, and like I said, doing a lot of the same things. Like we talked about that descending, dun, 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 dun. It's still following that. But it's kind of just making it more recognizable. They've completely removed like that muddy guitar thing from the low end, and all the parts feel better.
Yeah, I was almost shocked at how sparse this version is after listening to the original.
Yeah.
Because you get that piano in the back, you get a nice mild bass doing that little walk down and some boom, bo-do-do-do-doom. Like, yeah, it's basically doing a climb and then a drop. And then that little shaker toilet brush drum.
Yeah.
and very smooth vocals.
Yeah, they're a little smoother. I'd say still in the same vein as the original, but definitely smoother sound.
Definitely smoother. It's that like smooth rock, like sex is on the table vibes.
Yeah, more of the like, I guess, yacht rock.
Yeah,
area.
Definitely in that realm.
Yeah.
Everybody dancing in the moonlight. Yeah.
And the keys play around too. Like it does very similar things throughout. A lot of repetition there, but it like moves up and down, and there's parts particularly like leading into different sections, and like I think in the chorus, but definitely right before the chorus, you get like some really high EP there.
Yeah, because it does such a good. Yeah, I think it does such a good job in the intro of establishing what the riff that it's playing around with is that all of its grooving around is then like more enjoyable to the ear because you see what it's moving around.
Right. Like you get it, and then it just does a few different things with it.
Yeah.
And there's a few points in this song where they'll play like fairly short guitar solos.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're like fine. I don't think these solos are anything to write home about, but it's also not like showing off. Like it fits in with the song vibe of like everyone's having a good time. So of course you got to let the guitar have a good time for a bit, and then it's on to the next thing, sort of.
Yeah, it just kind of like gives you a little break between some of the choruses, and it's just, like it fits the vibe. Yeah, it's not David Gilmour on guitar. It's not show stealing, but like.
But like it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a 3-minute song, so it's not like these guitar solos are really making this unlistenably long.
True. Very true. But yeah, overall they just make it sound more distinctive, I think, is the really like the music part sounds more distinctive without even abandoning much of what the original had going. So it's just like a more developed, polished version of kind of the same.
Yeah, you drop the weird organ, you polish the bass line and that guitar riff. You put some good tones on this. Like a lot of it is in the tone. Like the guitar sounds chill. The keys sound, twinkly and moonlighty. Mm-hmm. It's a big tone game on this, and they really bring it. And the group singing is like polished without sounding like, like a choir.
Right. Yeah, and like they do some similar stuff like the lead vocals aren't on the first chorus.
That's right.
Pretty sure. Yeah. So, similar stuff with that. A lot of the same ideas.
Yeah, a lot of the same ideas, just done right.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess makes sense because like it's kind of pushed by the same people.
Yeah,
I think,
right?
unless it was taken away from those people because they weren't there for the recording, but
I wonder. Yeah. Well, the thing is that the former Boffalongo member is Dave Doc Robinson. In King Harvest, he was the lead vocalist, the bassist, and the keyboardist, which is like most of this song.
True. Yeah, maybe it was all him.
Yeah, it could be. There's not
took
much
over.
about King Harvest after this. They like break up, get together again a bit, but they're never like a breakout hit after.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of their hit. I don't know if they're a one-hit wonder per se, but I mean, I've never heard of King Harvest in any other context.
No, me neither.
So,
yeah, looking at their top hits, there's nothing really jumping out. So yeah, this is kind of like it. I guess maybe just having the time to look at it. Dave Robinson was like, "No, I can do this. Like, I can polish this up a little." But yeah, it's like leagues above the original, and I think just a great chill vibe. I can see why it became a hit.
mm-hmm.
Anything else to say about this one, Alex?
No, I don't think so.
Well then, we're gonna move into the next cover version. Oh, wait, hang on, let me introduce this property. Ladies and gentlemen, Liza Minnelli in 1973.
Dancing in the moonlight, everybody's feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody dancing in the moonlight.
1973.
No.
Big enough hit that Liza Minnelli decided to cover it. Of course,
right.
Liza Minnelli, which kind of sounds like a fake name to me for some reason, but is not. It's her actual name. Big in show business for many decades. Daughter of Judy Garland, so part comes from like, and I forget who her father is, but he was also
Mr. Minnelli.
Yeah, Mr. Minnelli. A big name in something. So she like has an EGOT and has done a bunch of like showy cover versions, and we've talked about her a couple times.
Yeah, we talked about her specifically on the If You Could Read My Mind episode. And maybe another time? Did we
I
talk
think
about
one
her
other
another
time, but now I forget
You might be right.
what it was for.
Can't say for sure.
Yeah.
But this is Minnelli style. It's big show tune vibes, big energy right off the bat. We open with like horns, a little bit of like funk guitar sting too, and some drums.
It's very different because the first two, like we said, like the Boffalongo version is like the prototype, and the King Harvest version is the real thing. And then now this, I mean, we said all you need is the title to make it this song. That's probably not completely true. This doesn't keep much of that original instrumentation though. It changes a ton of it, including the intro. There's no.
Yes.
It doesn't really have a distinctive riff in the same way. It's lacking, I found, in terms of that like backbone.
Yeah, this one's all about motion rather than backbone.
Yes, very much. It's very fast.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back and forth between like two different parts. There's like her very active part, and then there's the intro part where it's like these horns are being like boat up.
And then you get the backup vocalist going, Moonlight Dance.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't wild about those backup vocals.
I think because maybe it's because the original and the King Harvest version set up such a like clear like vibe of like a kind of folksy dancing evening where it's like you're outdoors, I'm picturing. It's not like in a theater with Liza Minnelli singing.
Right.
It's much more laid back in my eyes. So to get this version where it's just like, boom, we're hammering it. There's people fucking dancing in the back. We got horns. You're like, what?
Oh, yeah.
Are we dancing in the moonlight? It's a very strange departure.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got as well. Like, as much as this is, all done by professionals, it's well put together in theory.
Mm-hmm.
Comparing this one to the original, like this one has a lot of like, it's very like, it has a very strong energy. I just overall kind of thought it was too much. It makes it so hectic, and it just really like zips through everything. It really felt to me like you said, like, are we dancing? We're watching Liza Minnelli right now. We're not having a good time. We're watching someone else do their thing, and they're professionals. So what they're doing is not approachable to us.
Yeah. It has a similar vibe in a sense. We talked about The End of the World last week, where we kind of ripped on the Carpenters version. It has almost a bit of that same vibe, where it feels performative rather than more like genuine or more like on a one-to-one level. Natural. It feels like Liza Minnelli performing a hit in the same way that The End of the World felt like Karen Carpenter performing a hit. There's a little bit of cynicism behind it. I'd like the Liza Minnelli cover better than I like the Carpenters cover of The End of the World, but
yeah, like, well, she does more with it for sure. I just have some misgivings about what that is. That said, this version does have a flute solo.
Hey, there's flute in this.
So
if it was Jeremy Steig.
That's the only explanation I can think of, because I don't know why that note would have been in the original otherwise.
Yeah,
but yes, legitimate flute solo. My favorite part of this version is the flute solo. I wouldn't say it's an amazing flute solo, but it's a flute solo.
Yeah, sometimes just having that like non-conventional element come in and take the front space, even if it just toots like two notes, you're like, yeah, this is very cool.
Yeah, for some reason. But yeah, it was an odd take on this song.
Yeah, and that's not to say you can't dance at this pace. In fact, it would be suitable to dancing.
It's fast-paced, though.
Yeah.
Maybe I just run slow.
I don't know. And so I'm not willing to condemn this version, because like you said, it's done by professionals. It's well put together. This is what the youth call a vibe check. I'm just not sure if the vibes are right.
Yes. I think I kind of accused this song of being elitist a couple minutes ago, so.
Yeah, maybe a bit.
I don't know. So maybe that's just personal issues I need to work through.
Yeah, well, because it's Liza Minnelli. So I'm picturing this one in a live context, even though this is from like a recorded album. This isn't live like the other covers we've talked about by her.
That's true.
So, but I feel like that is what she's thinking of when she records, and that's where she thrives.
Kind of feels. I mean, they go like full chorus line at the end.
Yeah. So I think in terms of her making it a Liza Minnelli song, she's succeeded.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And things get like the piano starts to get more frantic near the end and stuff. Like we get big energy. She had a vision with this and she took it there.
Yeah, definitely. And like we have talked about Liza Minnelli before, and there's sort of a frantic energy to some to those other covers as well. Where it sometimes almost feels like she's running around on stage the whole time and like trying to get somewhere. Like in my mind, she's like constantly trying to like get from prop to prop so she can do a gag or something. Like,
right, yeah.
But that's how it feels.
That's how it feels. Yeah, I do picture her running, not even if there's not props, just to like look at different audience members and like emote at them.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I feel like she's running back and forth. But that's just a feeling. Like. That's just a guess. Yeah, so in terms of like a definitive version of this song, which is often one of the lenses we try to look through these at, I don't think this is it, but I do think it is the Liza Minnelli-est version of this song, for better or worse. I don't think she's missed here. I just don't think the target is one we're looking for.
No, I don't think so.
But I tell you what we are looking for, another cover. This in the year 1994. The Baha Men.
Baha Men. We talked about them a while ago.
Yes.
We talked about that version of Hooked on a Feeling. Which we, I think, liked.
Yeah, it was, I think, probably similar to this version.
Now the Baha Men, they're a group from the Bahamas.
As you might expect.
Bahamian.
Bahamanian, I believe it's pronounced.
And some version of this group has been active since like 1977. There've been a few different like iterations of it. This is like their early successful lineup because they first started seeing some like international success, or at least like recording success in the 90s.
Right, because I know them to be a 90s group.
Yeah, and like their like big hit that we had growing up, which was like early 2000s, Who Let the Dogs Out.
That's right.
Was not this lineup. It was this band leader's like nephew or something took over at some point. But yeah, I didn't have a butt. You
didn't have a butt. Here, let me have the butt. So they're known as and we didn't talk about this last time, and I couldn't look too much into this. They're classified as a Junkanoo band.
Junkanoo, they even say it in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
He shouts
and
Junkanoo
specifically is a street parade that takes place on Boxing Day in, I believe, Jamaica.
It's so it's like street music, street party music.
Yeah.
Definitely fits in theory with the topic of the song, dancing in the outdoors
at least
with other people.
This public dancing vibe, with other people.
In a context where maybe that's considered more normal.
Yeah. So you don't have to justify it by telling them that's a fine and natural sight.
Like, oh no, I'm totally a witch. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. So it starts out with a sample of music from the future game ARMS. Is that fair to say? Yeah,
I think that's what we're hearing here. To reference the trailer and menu of the popular
wildly popular
Switch fighting game ARMS.
It's a cool game in its defense.
It is a cool game.
I know it hasn't sold as well as it should, but
I mean, I bought it for a reason, and it wasn't just because it launched on my birthday.
But yeah, it's so for most human beings who won't understand what ARMS music sounds like. That's this like whoa, this like group choir in a sort of lower.
Yeah, everyone's singing together, but it's like whoa, and they kind of blend. But after that, it comes in with like some pretty heavy electronic drums. And then the rest of the sort of beat of the song is really built around that electronic drum pattern, rhythm, whatever, and then some syncopated piano chords.
Yeah, that doom, doom, doom.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty simple. It's that, and then for breaks between verses, we get that, I think it's a steel drum. Is it that? Dun, dun,
yeah.
Dun, dun,
yeah,
dun.
Sounds like a steel drum. But they bring in some more stuff. Like, this is street party music, so they bring in a bunch of horns and stuff in the chorus, and there's a ton of backups. There's a kind of funky guitar thing going on. So this is definitely like party vibes.
Yeah,
which is the right ballpark for sure.
Yeah, I vibe check. These guys got it right. It's a different party, but it's still like chill.
It's
but
a very
with a
different
bit of energy.
party. It's bigger, I think, to me.
Yes.
Because
for sure.
The original feels more, as much as it's everyone dancing, it's everyone is kind of paired off. Does that make sense? It feels more intimate.
It feels a little intimate, yeah, for
it's
sure.
It's more like party with friends versus party with just everybody.
Yeah, this is the whole town partying where that's like you and your friends going out to the woods.
So that seems to be what's going on here.
Yeah, and I think that is supported by the very boisterous intro, because it's not just the group singing. There's all this like auxiliary percussion. There's like whistling and like some cheering noises, and then this just kind of like shaking.
Yeah, like people shouting in a group.
Yeah.
Or getting excited in a group.
Yeah, so you get that, and then we break into the very simple breakdown. Yeah, their composition's really simple. Sometimes there's a bit of guitar in the mix, and the bass is also like they're there, but they're very subdued. And then the chorus is very chill. You get the group vocals. These guys are probably the closest to like super professional choral vocals.
Well, except for Liza Minnelli.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And then kind of it gets into like the latter half of the song. This is a longer version than the other ones. This one is the only one that's over 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And mostly that's because we kind of party at the end. Like there's a lot of repeating choruses and like he says, "Can you feel a lot?" That's his like ad-lib line.
Yeah, a lot of ad-lib. He says, dance, dance, dance. Yeah, that would be my main complaint with this one. This is where you kind of start to see that the song really is mostly just the chorus.
Right.
And then they keep whipping it out again and again. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, we could have cut this a minute ago and we'd have been happy.
Like we get it. But I mean, for something that's built for dancing and partying, I guess it makes more sense. Like,
yeah, totally fine to have the extra choruses in there.
And yeah, it's a good time. And maintains, or doesn't maintain, but changes the feeling, but maintains some similarities in terms of how the song feels.
It's same house, different room, as it were. It could fit into the party house of the music video for the next version we're going to talk about, which is segmented
party
a lot.
house.
I'm talking about a thing. I feel like I already have to explain it. Forget that I said that.
We'll talk about
it soon. Keep it in mind. It's not that important. Let's talk about Toploader in 2000.
Dancing in the moonlight, everybody's feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight.
Toploader. Wow, I can't believe they named their band after an NES model. Nah, Wikipedia says it's a joint rolling technique.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that though, so
I didn't know that. And I've rolled some joints in my day.
I mean, I just thought that was how you roll joints. You put it in the top, and then you roll it.
So top loading, would that be like when it's open and then you just blow it in and then roll it, or is that? I guess that would be top loading. Otherwise,
I don't know, it's like it's like half a sentence on the Wikipedia page. It just says named after a joint rolling technique, top loader, and then just goes on. So I don't know, but yeah, they're kind of a group that started up in the late 90s. They're British also. In fact, apparently they were the last British band to play at the original Wembley Stadium before it was knocked down and rebuilt. I think it was demolished and redeveloped. Yeah, they opened for Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi
At Wembley Stadium. So that's kind of neat.
Neat. So this was the next version that became like kind of a hit. Peaked at number 19 on the UK singles chart, and then a version of it was reproduced by the production team Stargate, who y'all might recognize for being the producers behind the Katy Perry hit Firework.
Oh, shit.
But Stargate produced a version of this that hit number 7 on the chart in November of the same year. So that's kind of the version that came to rise. That said, I don't know which version this is.
Yeah, which version is this?
The Stargate reproduction or the original?
Stargate. I have no idea.
No idea. But this is on their third album, Anka's Big Maka, which I don't know what the fuck that means, but hey.
It was the year 2000, different times.
Different times. So they bring it back to the King Harvest version. We've kind of run away from it with the last two versions where we're doing the song, we're doing some of the lyrics, but instrumentally we're in a vastly different place. Here, we're coming back to that piano riff, changing it a little.
Yes, they are changing it a little. And even, I would say, making it a little bit more distinctive. A little bit more of like a hook.
Yeah, they really focus on the first half of it, especially that ba-na-na-na-na.
So like you come in right off the top with just that very, very recognizable, it's kind of a Celesta sound. Like you get a Celesta and like a flute mellotron sound. So I don't think these guys were considered like Britpop, but they apparently opened for like Noel Gallagher at times. So like they're like related because they're British and it's the late 90s, right? So there's a little bit of that like kind of 60s psychedelia influence.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear it in that sound right there.
You can hear it in that sound right there. Yeah. So you're right. It is like when I think of the riff, I do think of this version, I think more than the King Harvest version. Despite that, the King Harvest one is solid, but you're correct in that this one gives it a little more breathing space and makes it just a little more unique.
Yeah, it's just taking the next step after what King Harvest did to the original, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think you are correct. And then we get the vocals in pretty quick, and they're harmonized right off the bat. So there's a harmony track, there's the main track.
Yeah, the backup track's kind of just like a higher falsetto singing along.
Yeah. And we get some hand claps, or at least what sounds like hand claps in that drum beat.
Yes, hand clap sounds. There's a lot of like modern touches, such as the hand claps in the rhythm. The rhythm guitar is one thing I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
It kind of plays the short descending parts that have been inherited from the original by way of King Harvest, probably. It definitely has a more modern sound. It's kind of a modern, clean rhythm guitar sound.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. A lot of things about this, I say more modern, but this is still 20 years old. So more modern at the time.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they generally follow the same idea, right? This one, but this one also has, like, the singer gets a little more into it. Like, it has a little more of that build that you would expect from more modern songs. Not a ton, but he does. He sings a bit
You can
harder.
hear it in the chorus too. Like there is still backing, but in the other ones, it's usually the chorus taking the lead. Like the backing vocals are the vocals.
Yeah.
Whereas this one's him being backed, and you can hear that.
And there's an organ solo in this one.
Yes.
Most of the other stuff continues underneath, but there is an organ solo, which is kind of interesting because to me it brings back a bit of that like really muddy sound from the original. But it's like just in a little bit of the song, so it's much more manageable. And it's not just like there underneath everything the whole time. And I do like organs. I'm not trying to say organ sounds aren't good, but it has similar sound to that.
Yeah. Also a bit of an odd inclusion because it just like hasn't really been there.
Been there, yeah. Although in the music video they try to make us believe that's the only thing he plays, which I'm a little skeptical about. I'm not convinced that the early stuff is the same instrument. But maybe you can really mess with those organs.
That's true. You can get a lot of different sounds out of them.
Tone bars or whatever you call them.
So you get that ripping organ, and then you're right. Like after that organ, we get him really giving her on the chorus. We get it almost every night. So yeah, this one's like more focus on the lead vocals, a more pronounced hook, and then just some, like you said, some more modern little touch-ups here and there. Some hand claps, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
I would say this version, as much as I did like the King Harvest version, this one sort of, I don't see a reason in a modern context, like a modern public setting, to ever play anything other than this version. Because it's like an update, enough of an update, and like done well enough that like, why would you pick anything out? Like why, unless you were specifically trying to evoke the 70s, you would want sort of the more modern version. So I think it kind of does supplant the first, the version that made it popular.
I think you may be right, because I can't get Greta to acknowledge that the King Harvest version is tight. I like this is the first one I heard, but also when I heard this one in Umbrella Academy, I was like, oh, that hook, like that boo-doo-doo-doo-doo is killer. It's very, very good.
It really pulls you in. So, like we've talked about versions of songs that are kind of more modernizations or updates than anything else. And while that's kind of what this is, it also like does a good enough job of it that it feels like more than that.
Yeah, I think it's worth expanding on that, saying when we usually talk about that update, where it's sort of derivatively or like negatively we talk
at
about
times
that.
We're like, they're just doing kind of their thing, but to an older song, you know. And maybe that's what's happening here, but it makes the song feel like really solid.
Yeah, I think this is an example of how you can update something in a way that is actually, you know, sensible and makes it something different and makes it stronger rather than just newer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good way of putting that.
And so now we get to talk about this fun little like modular house that they shoot a
Right.
music video in and
The
throw a
music
party.
video. So there's a music video for this one, which basically the like general plot of it is the band is playing together in a house, and then people sort of start to arrive at this house for a party, and the sun sets over the course of the video, and the band members all sort of slowly leave their ensemble. The song keeps playing, but they all sort of join the party.
Yeah. So and it's all these little like very box rooms, almost like sound stages, but very tiny and all.
Yeah,
together.
it doesn't seem like a normal house to me. Like the place they're playing is just a box room, and the only way in is like a sliding glass door to a
like a garden.
like some sort of
like you would have in like
open
a traditional
space.
Japanese home, like a garden in the center kind of deal.
Yeah, there's a word. So I feel like anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a solarium, would it? No.
No, I don't think so. Maybe.
But yeah, so it's a very strange space. Apparently a real house, if this YouTube commenter who says he worked on the video is to be believed.
It's not like architecture that we get here where we live, but this is, I assume, shot in the UK somewhere.
I think it's actually shot in California.
Okay, that
YouTuber's
also
to be
would be
believed.
very different architecture from...
Yeah, so the architecture is unusual, and they use it to throw this weird party. So members of the band will get up and go to the door and like bring some people in. So it's like a couple that comes in first, and then we're introduced to this room with a bed in it.
Yeah, yeah, and they like show the couple in, and they're like, "Oh, look at our like mattress in this room." And they're like, "Oh, very nice." Like,
yeah, and
as
they
they,
sit
like,
down
show
on it.
them
One of them
around.
stands on it.
testing for firmness. Yeah, it's like, I don't know if I've never really been to a party where there's just a prominent mattress available, but like there's always like people on the mattress, whether they're jumping on the bed or like there's like some kissing later on.
Right.
And
it's that being their like starting point for the party. I'm like, did one of the band members just bring over a couple to have sex with while everybody's playing music? Is that?
And then they were
what's
like,
happening?
let's cock block them by just inviting more people over.
Inviting more people and also spreading some leaves in the room or confetti.
I think it is leaves, because they're like throwing them around, like, hey, we're here, and then I mean they're bags of leaves. I think.
Yeah,
they're just dancing on the bed.
Very strange
in the moonlight.
And so we eventually, like more people come in and we see more of the rooms in this weird modular house.
Yeah,
So
because of the sort of construction of the house from this center area, you can sort of see all the rooms, so the camera doesn't need to move that much. And then it can sort of like go between rooms without having to phase through a wall or like build a set.
Yeah,
so yeah, it's
exactly.
an odd house, and like you can see the upper floors. So much of it just like opens into this center area through these glass doors. I guess in a climate where it's not like freezing the majority of the year or snowy.
Yeah, like that would be a welcome addition if you're not.
You can build
in Calgary,
this kind
Alberta.
of thing, but yeah, it doesn't make sense here.
Yeah, I forgot to mention there's a guy who just rides in on a motorcycle of some kind, like a Vespa kind of deal. Pretty early on in the video.
Yeah. Lots of people get there. There's a fire twirler. There's people sitting on the bed. They're dancing. There's lights and effects. After the organ solo, everyone leaves the band slowly, and then finally the organ player does after the organ solo.
That's right. Yeah, we get exposed to this massive mirror ball or disco ball in an upper space.
Yeah.
And then across from that room, there's people dancing on the roof.
Yeah, they're all over the place in this.
Yeah, so it's like it becomes
everywhere.
a collection of discrete parties all happening in one central party dome. And there's the fire twirler in the middle.
People making out on the bed. All kinds
like I was
of stuff.
mentioning at the end of the Baha Men video, I think you could fit the Baha Men in one of the discrete rooms of this party with their version of it, and it would totally kosher.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's a lot going on. The video makes it feel like they're all close friends, but it's like no one has this many close friends. How is that possible?
It's one of those scenarios of everybody bringing their close friends. So it's like you bring your close friends, and then they invited their friends over.
Yeah, everyone
invited a
brings
couple other
5
people
friends, and
over.
then after like 3 or 4 levels, you have like the entire population of the planet.
Yeah. And so that's who's here. It's everybody on Earth. And everybody's found like the exact right party environment for them. Whether it's the dance room, the mattress room, watching the fire guy spin, or just playing the organ by yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes leaving the organ, but always coming back to the organ.
Always coming back to the organ. Got to make sure it's still running properly. All this to say, I'd go to this party. I think it looks pretty fun.
It does. It does look like a good time. I wish they'd play more than one song, though.
Yeah, be a little tired of it by the end of the night. But yeah, not a bad little music video, too. I thought it was going to be just them playing in a house. I was like, okay, great. Buckle in for this boring thing, but it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it feels appropriate for the song.
It feels appropriate.
It's all about
And
the vibes,
also-
man.
That's right. And the vibes are right on this song. They're correct. Perhaps the best vibes so far. But we've got more vibes down the line here with
We do.
Jubel
Uh,
and NEIMY in 2018.
Dancing in the moonlight, everybody's feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody's dancing in the moonlight.
it is a Swedish production duo, so I believe it's pronounced Jubel.
Jubel, fuck. Well, I said it Jubel in the opening, so there's no going back now.
Yeah, so this is a classic sort of team up concept. We've got our producers, Jubel, and then NEIMY, who is, I guess, a pickle loving songwriter.
I pulled that quote as well, yes. Who's always overthinking.
Oh, yeah. I stopped at pickle loving.
Oh, yeah, you really didn't need much other than that. Yeah, she's a Swedish electronic indie pop singer. And this is another update one, but now we're updated into that, like, kind of trop pop vibes a bit.
Yes, definitely that, like, positive, good time dancing vibraphone. Just trying to extend everything you said. There's actually not a vibraphone in this. I'm just trying to make a joke.
I was going to say, I thought that was a guitar at the start.
It is a guitar, but yes, it is once again kind of like just putting a new stylistic spin on this. And notably, it is a cover of the Toploader version because it does have the same intro riff, but it's on that guitar.
Yeah.
It's on that guitar now. So and a bunch of what I always struggle to describe in a better way than production, which seems like a very generic way to say anything. So maybe like sound design or synth design or soundscape design is a better way of saying it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like everything's stretched out to give a bit of... It feels like there's big space in it. This feels like a very spacious version.
Yeah,
and
everything's
so
very
you hear that
echoey.
guitar like fill out. Boom, 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 boom. Like,
Exactly.
That's...
Yeah.
And then it's very simple. In the verses, we get finger snaps instead of hand claps. Again, still give us that group vibe.
Group vibe, gotta
A
have
little bit
that.
of that organic percussion.
One of the things I thought was kind of cool about it, in the first sections, in the intro and the first verse, they don't really bring the percussion in yet. Most of the like kind of rhythmic action. I guess there is the finger snaps and then some kind of like. Not even.
Like
it cuts out. There's like a bit. Yeah, like a really small cymbal sound. Like a
Yeah.
yeah. But really the like bulk of the rhythm is being driven by this like finger picked guitar. Boom ba-doom ba-doom boom ba-doom ba-doom boom ba-doom.
Yeah, this boom, 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 boom. Yeah, so they really let it slow build. And even for her vocals, we get them kind of just single track before we get them multi-tracked in the chorus, which they bring the chorus in really quick. They just do one verse. They
do like verse chorus and then a couple chorus. Oh no, it goes back to the intro. So like they kind of repeat their sections, but they sort of have the two parts. They have their more broken down bit, like without the bass and the drums. And then they're more like party dance bit.
Yeah, so it's interesting. In versions we've seen so far, it's always the chorus that is like the big part.
Yeah.
But in this one, the chorus is sort of a downturn before we then crank back up for that riff, that
for the like dance section, because it's more of a dance version.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see the song sort of restructured that way.
I was also surprised at first, like this is actually a fairly short version of the song. It cuts out
really
some
tight.
time, but they seem to do a lot. Like they move through a lot of verses and choruses and like sections before like the halfway point. Like they're really going in this one, but it's not like the Liza Minnelli version where it feels hectic.
Yeah, we still have like laid back vibes, but there is a dance beat underneath it that's driving it, so we still get that idea.
But yeah, I would say like maybe a little almost by the numbers, but like pretty solid version. By the numbers is like too reductive, but
no, it's like it follows its structure as a dance song, but I think it keeps up some dynamics in there, because we've heard dance versions where they like set up the drum beat and then they just kind of verse chorus until you finish, right? Like
yeah, this one feels a little better, and it's shorter. Like if this song goes on, like we said, for too long, it can be a little bit much.
It starts to wear thin. Yeah.
But not this version. It doesn't do that.
No, yeah, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It kind of just presents the idea of, hey, what if the keys riff from the Toploader version was a guitar and a little bit more poppy, a little bit more troppy. Yeah.
Make the guitar pop and then add a little bit of that dancey beat. And bass. And bass.
Yeah. And I think the vocals do follow that riff sometimes. So they'll go, let me see if I can find a mark for that, but I'm pretty sure that happens.
So it sounds believable.
Yeah, like 140.
Yeah, later on. 140. She goes, ooh. I mean, I fucked up that. I got really flat on that, but that's
okay.
Idea.
None of it came through on my end except the very end. But yeah, it's a pretty solid interpretation that doesn't overstay its welcome. And what else is there to say about that? Well, there's a music video for this.
There is a music video. Fun music video featuring fairly briefly the singer of this music video. I believe.
Okay, that's the woman going out on a date?
I believe so.
Who is, I think, the mother of the child?
Yeah, either an older sister or a mother.
I think she's, I don't know. It's just because, like, I thought sister at first, but because there is another paternal character present, this old motherfucker.
A grandmother, I believe.
A grandmother. I wasn't sure if it was a grandmother or father. But
oh yeah, the camera. I thought grandmother, but the camera doesn't really show much.
You know, I like to see those grandma bodies. Let me see that grandma real quick.
Grandmother.
Just to say that. Yeah, so it starts with a woman, whether it be sister or mother. This could be like a 3-generation family.
Yeah,
we can't derive.
Seems to be NEIMY, who's singing the song. And then, but the video focuses on the young girl, who's I don't know, 12 to 14.
Yeah, 10 to
10 to 13, I don't know, young. And she's like, has massive glasses for one. But basically is bored because she's home essentially alone because her grandma is dead.
She doesn't move. She
doesn't move the whole time.
It's a little concerning.
So the young girl decides to pass the time by just dancing on her own. And dances with like objects in the room and just like throws them down to the ground.
Throws them down, yeah. And again, no movement from the grandma. So you're right. She is deceased.
So rest in peace, grandma. And then she goes outside, starts dancing outside. Some of the like neighbors come over. 2 of the neighbors.
2 of her neighbor friends come and dance with her.
So they dance in like kind of a line. And some also young boys walk by, including young Marty McFly. So that's fun. With a bike. And they kind of notice them and then are never seen again.
And never seen again. Yeah, I thought they were going to maybe come over or something. But they're really just there to establish that in this world that these women dancing like this or these girls dancing like this is unusual. Is I think the
probably,
their
and like
purpose.
it would probably be a bit weird because if they started like coming over and being all flirtatious, that's what you do in a video with like adults. But these are children, so like I think it makes sense.
I mean, they could still come over and dance, like
True, they could dance
like children do.
like children do. True.
Yeah, it was just a weird vibe though. 'Cause it's like, why are we introducing these guys? Surely they're going to come back at some point. And then she just goes back to her house.
Yeah, and like sits down. Now, I'm pretty sure like this is, I think, an accurate representation of what like some girls this age do. Because I swear, like I remember my sister choreographing dances with her friends and like
Oh yeah,
filming them on like their like our parents' old 2002 digital camera. That was like
I think
3
that might be right.
megapixels, 1.8 megapixels, whatever it was. I don't know. Low
yeah,
number of
cameras back in the day.
megapixels.
A low number of megapixels, I tell you.
And like, we hadn't even standardized things with SD cards. It was a nightmare.
Good lord. But yeah, that's the video. The woman returns from her date. And
Yeah, well,
she
they
sees
kind
the
of do
kid.
like a almost like they don't quite do the Ferris Bueller thing, but like she runs into the house and like sits down. So when her
Yeah, to
when
pretend to
she
be
comes
bored
home, she's
still.
like, "Oh, you have been sitting here this whole time." But then they just start dancing together and having fun.
Yeah, they start dancing together.
Isn't that nice?
And that's the video. And then the whole song is being diegetically played through a cassette player, and the cassette player stops at the end.
Oh yes. I didn't watch that. I haven't watched long enough.
Come on, Alex. You can't just stop watching because the advertisements for the other music videos and playlists come up.
I mean, often nothing happens.
Often, true. But hey, here
Anyway,
something happened.
yeah, that's that music video. So it's kind of,
Yeah.
feel good. Relationships between people and having a good time. Hey, that's what the song's about.
That's what the song's about, baby. So, another functional music video. We've seen better, we've seen much worse. Let's wrap this list up with CoolKillers and Nora Norman in 2019.
Cool.
Dancing in the moonlight, everybody's feeling warm and bright. Such a fine like this out, everybody's dancing.
Yes, CoolKillers seem to be Spanish. I translated
does
one
Nora
of their
Norman.
descriptions. That makes sense. That's how they communicated, probably.
That would make sense.
Hang on, let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, you translated their notes.
Yeah,
their,
they
bio.
were friends, and now they make things on the internet. They're young creatives. They like to reinterpret things as minimalist funk. They like music, and there's a few things that don't make sense based on the translation. So basically, they're like a minimalist funk group in the vein of, your Wolfpacks, your Scary Pockets, but more Scary Pockets side of things because they do covers.
Now, what does a maximalist funk group sound like?
More than this.
More than this, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that you see with these groups a lot is sort of just all guest singers. So
Yeah, that's right.
that seems to be what's happening here with Nora Norman.
Mhm.
And it's all for YouTube, right? Like it's
That's right.
all so you don't need to have a consistent singer because you are recording everything. It's not live,
That's right.
even though
And
they're
this
usually
has that-
recorded live.
That same vibe of Scary Pockets, like you mentioned. The video is them in a recording studio or whatever their recording studio is
Yep.
playing the song.
Or stages. They're all kind of just like sitting in a line.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
the song. What's the song like? Well, I mean, it's done in this kind of like jazz funk thing. Like they start with this fast, kind of it's like doubled up lick. You hear it on the guitar, and I think the EP and the bass all together.
Yeah, they
these sort
really
of runs.
unite on the same thing to do
Yeah.
almost a wall of sound.
Yeah, and these fast runs is really a sound you get in a lot of funk and jazz fusion. So like that's their
Mhm.
style.
A lot of what I believe are ghost notes in there where you're just kind of putting your finger on the string and then playing the string. So you're not pressing it down to make a noise, but just to get that tuk-tuk-tuk-tuk.
Oh, a little bit of like a sound. Get a pluck
Yeah.
sound without it being like ringing out.
Exactly. So not like a muted note either, but like You can hear it
Like a half note
at the
kind
end of the riff. So it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was ready to hate this one coming into it because I was like, oh no, it is just Scary Pockets. But
Yeah, I
think
wouldn't. I wouldn't put it on that level.
I think their focus on like what they do at the start there, like riffs and making the riffs pop out using all the instruments, is kind of what shines on this. I think instrumentally this is a very good track, and I liked the kind of climb up and climb down of their riff. It sounded very good.
Yeah, which is, they sort of do some of that in like the original stuff. It's just a lot faster here.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep it faster, but it also kind of knows when to slow down. Again, I'm going to compare it to the Liza Minnelli version, which was like hectically fast. And as much as they're playing fast, it's not necessarily that fast a rhythm. And I mean, you can tell because she's not singing super fast.
No, she's taking it easy. Speaking of her singing, does she say sad and bright at the beginning?
I didn't pay too much attention to her lyrics. The reason is not that I didn't pay attention to her singing, but like her lyrics are, particularly later on, just like completely fall apart, and she goes like very ad-libby and doesn't follow the lyrics much.
Yeah, but go to like 20 seconds in or like 19 seconds in, because
Okay.
that's when she does the first line of the song. She does not say big and bright.
Really, it doesn't sound like big. It does sound like sad. Yeah.
That's sad is not a word that should come up in this song. I know we've talked about how fast and loose you can play with the lyrics. And surprisingly, I'm going to say about this, we went too fast and loose with the lyrics. One, sad and bright. I don't think that's any good. And two, like you mentioned, that freestyling is a bit rough.
Yeah, it's not like it reminds me of, but I don't think is as bad as the Scary Pockets version of Just a Friend.
Yes.
Because that was
I agree 100%.
just complete non sequitur, whereas this is like more in the like scatting vein. Like it's not quite pure sound, but a lot of it sounds like it.
Yeah, and she at least tries to come back to the words like dancing the moonlight every now and then to tap that and be like, we're still here. We're still in this.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about my shoulder for a bit.
And like it works fine enough. It just feels like I mean, she's just kind of saying, I can see the look in your eyes a lot, I think.
Yeah, that as
But
well.
looking back over
When
my
she's looking over her
shoulder,
shoulder.
I can see the look in your eyes, and just like repeats kind of parts of that a lot. Different times.
And I don't know. I feel like there's so much room for like improvisation in this, particularly vocally, as long as you're talking about like the moonlight and dancing.
Yeah.
If you could,
But
if you're like,
no, sorry.
but I guess looking in your eyes. No, you could have said like I can see the moon in your eyes or something. Like it just seems like we abandoned it, and maybe that's, I don't know how strong her English is. She is of course Spanish. Spanish is her first language, and I'm not gonna necessarily rail hard on that point, but I think we could have clung a little closer to the lyrics.
Yeah, and although I mean, we were talking about how like if you have the title, that's pretty much what you need, and like for the most part they do. They kind of lose it for a bit there.
Yeah.
But like when they do have that title, like it's working and it's very different. Like it's a very different style. It's in this minimalist funk style. But it still feels like the song, you know?
Yeah, it feels warm and bright to steal from the song itself.
So this one really proves that the song can exist in like a lot of different contexts as long as you have like the really basic stuff.
And I like the synth pads that come in on the chorus. Like I think the chorus really does still shine, but instrumentally more than vocally.
True. Yeah, the chorus brings the drums down so they're not as fast, and they kind of really let the cymbals ring out. And those synths you mentioned. They kind of pulse too.
Yeah, they got a good pulse on it. Yeah, so me personally, in for it instrumentally. Almost like a...
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, it's like a fun jam on the bones of the original song. Like, I wouldn't say the skeleton of the original song.
Yeah.
Because the structure's not there, but the bones are.
It's the windswept bones of the original. We're about 50 years in the future now. Like, time has... There's no way to know what the original sounds like, but we have these little fragments of it, and that's what they found.
Building it out of that, and it seems to work reasonably well. Better than most of the Scary Pockets we've talked about.
Oh, yeah. I'd say just about over every Scary Pockets version. And even with them, I still think it's kind of a middling vocal performance. Like, the vocals I can take or leave. I don't think she's a bad singer. I was
iffy on the vocals. There's definitely times where it feels a little flat.
Yeah.
But I don't really know if there's a justification for that or why you would do it that way. Or maybe I'm just not good at listening to vocals. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. And this is me also going like, do I just not like funk? I'm like, I feel like I should like funk.
On some level.
On some level. Yeah, and I'm like, maybe it's just not newer funk. I don't know.
But it's decent. This is definitely like a more modern sound for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's a more modern sound. And all that said, I've been complaining about it. Overall, positive feelings about this. I'll say overall about this playlist, pretty positive feelings.
I mean, the song is a good feeling song. And these are all solid versions. So it makes sense that it would make you feel good. There is a music video for this, like we said. There's not a whole lot going on. They're kind of like sitting in a line, or at least in a line from the camera's perspective. I noticed the guitar and the bass are like the same. They're both like a red Stratocaster style.
Oh yeah, so they can play as fast as each other.
Right, of course. You don't want to mismatch speeds.
That's right.
And then Nora Norman, kind of the camera focuses on her, and then she like stands up. She's sitting down. She stands up and sings into the camera a bit. And that's mostly it.
That is. I was hoping there would be, because I watched it to try to get context for her vocal improvisations, like in the Just a Friend Scary Pockets.
Right.
Where you're like, oh, okay, he's talking about things in the room. That's why this song is garbage. I was like, is she looking over her shoulder when she's singing this? The answer is no. She had a fixation with looking over her shoulder.
Looking into your eyes.
And that's this version, Alex. Dude, let's get into the final verdicts. We got 3 categories today. The worst version, the best version, and the version you'd play at an outdoor moonlit party.
Outdoor moonlit party. Okay.
Alex, what's the worst version? And I feel like I already know what you're going to say, but what is it?
Yeah, it was Liza Minnelli. It didn't really do it for me. I didn't really appreciate the vibe of it. Mm-hmm. It changed a lot about it, which is fine and often good. But it didn't work for me ultimately. Even though all the parts, it's professionals performing, and I'm sure at a show it would be fun to watch, but it didn't feel like a party in under the moonlight.
No, I think you are right. This song is ultimately it is a vibe song. And every other cover version passed the vibe check. The vibes are correct on every other version except the Liza Minnelli one. And that's, I mean, like I said, well constructed, well put together, but it doesn't serve the function it should. And that is why it's the worst version. No disrespect to Liza Minnelli. But yeah, it's got to be the worst version this week.
Yeah, doesn't matter how good it's put together if it doesn't do what it was meant to do.
Exactly. Let's talk about the best version, Alex.
Best version. There's some good versions here, I thought. But I don't think I can not shine a light on the sort of natural path of this song, which really feels like it went from Boffalongo to King Harvest, and then, at least for me, to Toploader. I think Toploader updated it, modernized it, but also in a way that, like I said before, just like made sense and like felt necessary.
Yeah, it feels like the natural conclusion.
I think it's their version.
I hate to agree with you again, but I think our conversation has led us to this point where it's the only way to think about it. Toploader did the best. They took that piano hook and made it a hook rather than just kind of a groovy bit. And it's a version that is, like you said, it's 21 years old. It still sounds pretty fresh, though. You could play it at a party today, yesterday, 20 years ago, 20 years before that. It'd sound pretty good.
Yeah. And
so it's got that timeless quality.
I would definitely if in a public context, probably gravitate toward that one first.
Yeah,
Just
I'm thinking if
because,
I wanted to
people
tell somebody about this
like it, I
song,
think.
which version would I point them to? Probably the Toploader version, like 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. As much as, I mean, you know I love stuff from the 70s.
Oh, yeah, but
And that does not exclude the King Harvest version of this song, for sure.
no, I got
but,
deep love for the King Harvest version.
But I think Toploader edges it out a bit.
Yeah, I think if we're talking best, like it is and I'm thinking from a like an objective standpoint, if one can pretend to have that, I think it's got to be the Toploader version. It's got all the elements in the right place. Alex, you're DJing a moonlit outdoor party of whomsoever you like. What version are you throwing on?
What version am I throwing on? I don't think there's really, well, there's maybe one wrong answer to this question.
Is it Liza Minnelli?
It's Liza Minnelli. But like, we're outside, and if we're in a public context, I feel like for me, the one that I would want to bring to the group is the one that could maybe spark a conversation. And I think the one that would do that is the Baha Men version, because then you can say, hey, this is the Baha Men, and then people will be like, oh, like, don't who let the dogs out. So like there's a small connection to that group. People would recognize, I think, Baha Men, which is why that's the version I would play at this party. And it's a very big party version too. So
Yeah, that's right. It gives some time to really fill the space, and people will ask questions. They're like, "What is this?" You're like, "It's the Baha Men."
You don't know
It's a good choice.
Junkanu?
Come on, you don't know Junkanu? This is a Junkanu party. You should be familiar. Great choice, Alex. I'm gonna go in a different direction. I'm gonna go with the King Harvest version. I'm outdoors. It's probably gonna go unnoticed by a lot of people, but maybe if I'm up there on the DJ booth or by the aux cord, wherever it may be, I'll be able to make some knowing glances at people who are in the know. So you get a little bit of that intimacy in the large party setting.
Like the song
Dancing in the Moonlight.
kind of.
And that might subtly change the vibe for everyone in there. They might go. It might get everybody in on it, even if they don't know they're in on it. That's my pick. With that, that's our final verdicts. If you got a different opinion, a similar opinion, want to tell us about a version we didn't talk about, hit us up on Twitter, #CoverMePod, @JakeTheCressy, @SomeAlexWiseGuy. Send us your comments, questions, concerns, suggestions for future episodes. You can also email those to us at covermepod@gmail.com. Also, be sure to rate and review us. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, your favorite podcasting app. Follow us, tell your friends about us. Get the word out there, folks. And that's it for today's episode of Cover Me. And as we always say on Cover Me, it's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody's listening to Cover Me.